Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if you're new. My name is Kristen and this is my booktube. I'm like rocking back and forth. For today's video, we are going to be talking about my May TBR. Once again, as always, these are tentative, these aren't written in stone. I may change my mind, I may swap some books out, and I may not get to some of these books, but as of right now, it is Thursday, April 27th. These are the books that I think are going to tickle my fancy in the month of May. I am sitting far back from you guys today because though I have not put on a lot of makeup, I have put on eyeliner, and the eyeliner gods were not smiling down upon me today, and my wings are not twins, they're not sisters, they're not even like cousins. They're like, you know how there are those accounts that are dedicated to people that look like their dogs? That's how I feel like these wings look today. They are vaguely similar looking, but not matching whatsoever. So for those reasons, you are far back today, and we're gonna keep it that way. So enjoy a little more wide frame shot. You can see my t-shirt, which is from, you guessed it, Recycled Books. Without further ado, let's go ahead and just jump into this May TBR. I always write down my monthly TBR lists in my planner. So let's go ahead and open up to May and see what ones I have written down. So I have 7 books written down for the month of May, and we're going to start with the 2 rollover books that I have from April to May. And that's going to be The Ruin of All Witches, which I did start in April. I was reading it for a book club that I ended up not being able to go to. Then later found out that the book club meeting that they were having with the author was actually recorded, and I can watch it back at any time. So I'm keeping this on my list of books to read because I do still want to finish it, and I want to watch that Q&A. I just haven't really had a lot of time for sitting and physically reading books, and this is one of the physical books that I started in April. So we're going to be working on finishing that one. And for those that don't know, didn't watch my last reading vlog / getting my life together video where I talked a little bit about this book. The Ruin of All Witches is a historical monograph book. It is by the historian Malcolm Gaskell. I think that's how you say his name. And it centers around one single case of witchcraft in New England. And so this work is a very deep dive into witchcraft prosecution in 17th century New England. And that's right up my alley. For those that don't know, I studied early modern history in undergrad. I mostly was looking at Europe, specifically England and the UK. So my knowledge on witchcraft prosecution in New England specifically is lacking. And that is one of the reasons why I wanted to read this book. It sounded interesting, and I have read a lot about witchcraft prosecution in continental Europe as well as England and Scotland, but I have not really delved into the prosecution of witchcraft in colonial America. So all of that said, it is a pretty dense read. It is under 300 pages, so it's not a particularly long book, but because of the nature of the writing, it is definitely a different writing style. So that is something that slows me down when I'm reading that book, along with the fact that I also want to take notes while I'm reading it because it's something that is adjacent to what I studied in undergrad. It's something that I find interesting. So the historian in me always wants to make notes in the margins, highlight, tab the pages, all of that stuff. So those things obviously take more time. Therefore, it's gonna take me longer to finish this book. So we're gonna roll it over to May, and I'm just going to read it little bits at a time. It may take me a while to finish it, but I'd rather do that than try to force myself to read it all in one sitting and then end up not really enjoying it or getting as much out of it as I want. The next rollover book from April is What Lies in the Woods. So this is a book of the month book that I got a couple months ago. I don't even remember what month I chose it for, but it is another thriller that centers around, let me read the synopsis again so I know I'm not getting it mixed up. Oh, is it time to be real? Oh, it's time to be real, guys. You want to be in my Be Real? Ready? 1, 2, 3. Okay. back to the task at hand. Oh yeah, I was looking up the synopsis for What Lies in the Woods. Okay, let's go to Goodreads. So What Lies in the Woods centers around Naomi, who, when she was 11 years old, was attacked in the woods and stabbed 17 times. She was in the woods with two of her best friends, and together they testified against and sent to prison a renowned serial killer. Or so they thought. As it turns out, the girls lied about what they witnessed that night in the woods. And now, decades later, one of the friends wants to tell the truth. And we follow Naomi as she tries to figure out what exactly happened to her in the woods all of those years ago. So if you've watched my previous TBR videos, you already know the reasons why I have this on my TBR. It sounds very creepy. I like the past and present perspective. I love a main character that is trying to recover memories of something traumatic that happened to them. So it ticks a lot of boxes for me. And once again, the reason why I didn't get to this last month is the fact that it is a physical book that I own, so I really want to be able to sit down and read it, and I've just been really busy and I haven't had a ton of time to dedicate to sitting down and reading. I do want to make more of a conscious effort to do that, but as of right now, I have some other things that are taking priority over that in my free time, so we will see if I can get to it this month. Those are the only two physical books that I have on my TBR this month. I have learned my lesson in the past of trying to put more physical books on my TBR that I don't get to them as quickly as I can audiobooks. So for that reason, those are the only two that I have on my TBR for the month of May. And if I can get to more, that is fantastic. If I can't, then I am happy with just reading those two physical books this month. Now, moving on to the audiobooks that I have on my list. So the first one I have on my list is Sometimes I Lie by Alice Feeney. So Alice Feeney is an author that I have read before. I really enjoy her work. I read Daisy Darker, and then I also read that's a little bit of a tongue twister. I also read Rock, Paper, Scissors, and I enjoyed both of them significantly. I thought the twists were really good. I thought that the storytelling was great. So I am very excited to read this next one from Alice Feeney. And this one also has an intriguing concept in that it is told from the perspective of a woman that is in a coma. She can hear the things that are going on around her in her hospital room, but she cannot move, she cannot open her eyes, she cannot speak, and therefore she is just essentially listening to everything that is happening around her. She had an accident that she cannot really remember exactly what happened, but she has a suspicion that somehow her husband is behind it. This story is once again a dual perspective that talks about the events leading up to her accident as well as her time in the hospital while she is in a coma, and follows as she tries to piece together what exactly happened to her while she is incapacitated, essentially. Knowing Alice Feeney's writing and knowing how she tells a story, I have very high hopes for this, and I hope that it is another 4+ star book for me this year. The next book on my list is Such a Quiet Place by Megan Miranda. I have also read other Megan Miranda books before, and they were okay. They were nothing earth-shattering. You know, they were fun, they had their place, but they were very middle of the road for me. They're not really ones that I think will stick with me long term. They're not really one that wowed me while I was reading it, and oftentimes I did kind of guess most of the twists in her stories. So I'm going to read another one and just see if that pattern continues, or if maybe I just read a couple ones that were below her average. I know that she has a lot of books, and even though I didn't rate her other ones that I've read 4 stars, I still think that they were fun and they served their purpose. So even if this is another 3-star one, I'm not going to be mad about it, because realistically, the majority of the books that I read are going to be in that 3-star range. They're going to be middle of the road, fun in the moment, but not really something that's world-changing for me, if that makes sense. Next up, we have Wrong Place, Wrong Time. So this is one that I saw on Scribd, and I read the synopsis, and it just seemed so interesting. This story centers around a mother of a teenage son. And one night when the mom is waiting up for the son who is late for his curfew, she looks outside and sees him as he stabs a man to death. So she witnesses her 18-year-old son with this bright future ahead of him commit murder and essentially takes away his own bright future. Then when she goes to bed and wakes up, and it is the previous day. It is the day before the son commits the murder. And the pattern continues. She keeps experiencing days in reverse and has to figure out what key moment will change her son's fate. What has happened in the days leading up to the murder that she can change in order to save her son's future. This is marketed as a thriller, as a mystery. So I thought that was a very interesting way to go about telling a thriller, and I'm excited to see that play out. It kind of gives me 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle vibes, if you've read that book. That is one of my favorite thriller books that I have read recently, and it's very much a Groundhog Day whodunit. And I really thought that that book was very clever in the way that it was written, in the way that things played out. And I can see this one going down the same path, but I can also see it being kind of convoluted and hard to follow. So we will see how that shakes out for me. The next one I have on my list is The Perfect Marriage. So this one centers around Sarah, who is a high-power lawyer, and her husband, Adam, as Sarah is preparing to defend him in court as his lawyer for killing his mistress. You heard that right. Adam cheated on Sarah with a girl named Kelly, who he is then accused of murdering when she is found dead in their second home. So I don't know a lot about this book outside of that very bare bones plot, but I do know other people who have read this book and said that it was pretty good. So I'm looking forward to reading that one and seeing how everything shakes out, seeing what really happened. So I'm excited to read that one. You know, we have a marriage with secrets, we have infidelity, we have murder, we have a second home, and we got courtroom drama. We got a lot going on here. So I am looking forward to reading this and seeing what exactly is going on with Adam and Sarah, and also Kelly the mistress. So excited to get to that. And the last one on my list for the month of May is The 3-Act Tragedy by none other than Miss Agatha Christie. I was going to leave it at 6 books this month, but then I was looking at my bookshelves and I saw all my Agatha Christie books, and I thought, I haven't read an Agatha Christie book in a while. So I think it's about time for me to pick another one up. And as some of you may know, I have been working my way through all of the Poirot novels that Agatha Christie wrote. And the next one on the list is The 3-Act Tragedy. I believe the last one that I read was Lord Edgeworth Dies, and I read that in January, I think. So we are overdue for another Christie book. The Agatha Christie books that I read are always, you know, on the shorter side. They're pretty fun, a classic whodunit, you know, and they're always just a fun little palate cleanser when I don't know what to read, or I'm worried about staying on track and I just need another book to get through fairly quickly. I don't really know anything about the plot, and I generally like to keep it that way for my Agatha Christie books. They're so short and they were published so long ago that I feel like anytime I Google or try to look into a plot summary of any of the Poirot books specifically, I run the risk of giving myself some spoilers. So I like to go in pretty blind. If I need to, I'll reference a synopsis of some sort, or if it's one like Death on the Nile that just has a bunch of characters in it that I can't keep straight in my head, I will pull up a character list and have that up while I am reading so that I can keep everyone straight. But most of the time I like to go in without any prior knowledge, because the mechanics of a Christie book pretty much always work the same, especially when you're reading a Poirot novel. I mean, the man has OCD, so he is pretty particular about how he runs his cases. Though the specifics of each case is different, Poirot is always the same. You know, he's always super meticulous and has his ways, and I just like going in blind, you know, seeing what the little Belgian man's gonna do this time. And that is it. We have made it, friends, to the end of my TBR. Those are all of the books that I have planned to read in May. Whether I actually get to them or not is another story, but that is at least the plan that I have. I am very much looking forward to reading all of the books that I put on my TBR this month, and I can't wait to share my thoughts with you. If you have any other book suggestions that you would like to share with me, please leave them in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and leave a like down below as well. Go ahead and subscribe while you're down there too, so you can be notified every time I upload a new video. I upload every Saturday around noon Central Standard Time. I hope you guys have a wonderful day wherever you are in the world, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!